In this extensive conversation, Danny and Jason Jorjani delve into a multitude of interconnected subjects centering on Jeffrey Epstein, Gilean Maxwell, their involvement with deep state structures, Atlantis lore, intelligence operations, and the esoteric and occult motivations underpinning some of these elements. The discussion traverses topics of espionage, geopolitics, including the role of Israel and Iran, ancient mythology linked to Atlantis, Nazi legacies within America's deep state, advanced scientific research like anti-gravity and genetics, and the metaphysical control systems governing life and death. Jason reveals his unique perspective gathered over decades of research, adding personal anecdotes and deep reflections on the socio-political and cosmic implications of these intertwined phenomena. Jason Jorjani reflects on his early research into Jeffrey Epstein's network, tracing how Epstein's ties with elite institutions like the Dalton School, Jason's own alma mater, ushered him into a world dominated not merely by sex trafficking buzz, but by deep-working political, intelligence, and occult interests. He highlights credible sources, including the writings of Whitney Webb, insights from former Mossad agent Ari Banasha, and the family biography of Robert Maxwell, Gilean's father. Epstein's alleged role as a facilitator for both the CIA and Mossad is posited not as that of a typical agent, but as a witting collaborator, capitalizing on his position to execute complex blackmail and influence operations. Jason recounts an encounter in 2019 with two high-level Mossad operatives who casually admitted to their involvement with underage women linked to Epstein's trafficking network, highlighting the mixture of blatant immorality and intelligence service complicity woven into the scandal. Also disclosed is Jason's own near recruitment into the CIA at age 14 by a teacher at Dalton, illustrating the intersection of intelligence recruitment with elite educational institutions. The podcast touches on the distinction between official Israeli state intelligence, Mossad, and a separate Jewish mafia operating within the United States. Jason traces Epstein's lineage, metaphorically, back to figures like Meyer Lansky, a Jewish mobster with deep ties to American and international organized crime, including connections to the CIA. Epstein's early career reflects this convergence of organized crime, intelligence, and elite finance, with his troubled but influential teaching stint at the Dalton School under a peculiar OSS-turned-CIA operative named Donald Barr. Barr's science fiction novel featuring aristocratic cosmic pirates foreshadows the overarching narrative of secreted power and transnational crime. Jason emphasizes that Epstein's deep state affiliations were more layered and unsavory than merely espionage, and points to persistent infiltration of American political and economic systems by Zionist and other foreign interests, complicated by competing intelligence agencies, including China's extensive espionage efforts. Jason, who has actively lobbied for regime change in Iran, provides a nuanced geopolitical analysis, linking broader U.S. foreign policy failures and Middle East dynamics with the Epstein saga. He praises Iran's population's pro-American attitude while condemning its fundamentalist regime. His personal experiences, including direct communications with Israeli military and intelligence leaders and Prime Minister Netanyahu, underscore the complex triangle of power between the U.S., Israel, and Iran. The conversation critiques various U.S. foreign interventions and alliances, revealing tension between U.S. administrations and Israeli objectives, including the aborted Israeli military operation during the 12-day war with Iran, which President Trump intervened to stop. Jason disputes claims concerning nukes and purported threats, offering alternative interpretations consistent with his direct involvement in the region. Central to the podcast is the Atlantis theme, which Jason connects intimately with Gilean Maxwell and Epstein's more esoteric pursuits. He traces Maxwell's fascination with oceanography and Atlantis back to her father, Robert Maxwell's association with Jacques Cousteau, who was obsessed with finding Atlantis. Maxwell named Epstein's submarine the Atlantis and left behind clues such as a pseudonym, Janet Atlantis Marshall, used to purchase property, revealing her personal ideological alignment with the Atlantean mythos. This fascination extends to underwater ruins near Cuba, where an Atlantean city, allegedly submerged 50,000 years ago, was discovered by marine archaeologist Paulina Zalitsky. The story of Zalitsky's harsh interrogation and subsequent silence connects these explorations to clandestine state or intelligence interests. Jason links this to Nazi-era and post-war secret science programs, extending to anti-gravity research, eugenics, and the genetic engineering efforts Jeffrey Epstein purportedly funded, including the creation of genetically enhanced fetuses at his Zorro Ranch underworld facilities. Jason outlines the origin of the American deep state in the absorption of Nazi scientists and intelligence operatives post-World War II through Operation Paperclip and the formation of the CIA via integration with former SS spy networks. He discusses secret Nazi nuclear tests in 1944, predating the U.S. Trinity test, and the mysterious Nazi Bell project involving nuclear plasma fusion, which purportedly opened portals to zero-point energy, an energy source for UFO-like anti-gravity craft. He reports on classified developments within U.S. defense contractors such as Lockheed Martin, where advanced propulsion craft, including flux liners and tic-tac-shaped vehicles, are allegedly being developed from Nazi-era technology and thereafter expanded into deep space missions. The conversation emphasizes how Epstein, Maxwell, and their cohorts are positioned at the fringes of this high-tech, ultra-secret breakaway civilization, attempting to duplicate or compete with it via their own covert operations. A key figure, Robert Maxwell, controlled the Pergamon Press, a major publisher of scientific journals. Jason argues this positioned Maxwell to influence and censor scientific knowledge, particularly sensitive breakthroughs in physics, genetics, and related fields. The name Pergamon itself carries symbolic weight, referencing an ancient center of science malignantly dubbed the Throne of Satan by early Christian authorities. Maxwell's ties to intelligence extend to MI6, Mossad, and the KGB, reflecting a triangulated spy affair, culminating in his suspicious death at sea in 1991 after conflicts over funding and control. Gilean Maxwell, inheriting both legacy and secrets, represents the next generation trying to continue these hidden agendas amidst the collapse of old Cold War structures and the rise of emerging global powers. The podcast elaborates on the sinister layers of espionage, money laundering, and political intrigue embedded within their operations. Jason explores Maxwell and Epstein's interest in international waters and the concept of seasteading. The vast, unregulated portions of the world's oceans provide opportunities for extrajudicial activity, tax avoidance, and covert operations outside national jurisdictions. Maxwell's Terramar Foundation sought to exploit marine sovereignty through issuing passports, lobbying for regulatory loopholes, and protecting oceanic ecosystems superficially as a cover for deeper strategic moves. The discussion covers real-world seasteads like Sealand off Britain, which function as tax havens and hub for illicit trade, drawing parallels to Maxwell's ambitions for a stateless marine domain. Jason emphasizes ongoing American military-industrial efforts to build underwater and mountain-embedded bases for strategic continuity in nuclear or existential conflicts, connecting this to the facilities that may host the hidden UFO programs and the breakaway civilization. A profound portion of the conversation focuses on the mythological and spiritual dimensions of Atlantis and its rebellion against oppressive cosmic powers, drawing from Edgar Cayce's psychic readings and Rudolf Steiner's esoteric doctrines. The Ballet, or rebel group in Atlantis, is discussed as a band of hybrids who rejected the tyrannical Olympian gods, representing lawlessness, godlessness, and unbound freedom, terms loaded with layered meanings of spiritual rebellion, occult knowledge, and anti-authoritarian revolt. Jason contrasts these traditional Christian and Gnostic condemnations with his own philosophy, proposing that the rebels of Atlantis understood and manipulated a quantum, spectral reality beyond simplistic material spiritual dualism. He situates this as a foundation for clandestine occult scientific groups influencing history today, inspired by or continuing that ancient rebellion. The podcast moves into parapsychological territory, discussing consciousness, near-death experiences, and reincarnation as tools of a cosmic control system. Jason disputes standard moral interpretations of karma, supported by decades of research into reincarnation cases and morphic resonance theories. He argues that after death, human souls are generally corralled into controlled cycles of existence by a spiritual hierarchy akin to the Olympians or angels. who maintain control using deception, such as replaying life reviews or presenting comforting but false figures during near-death states, to keep souls compliant within this system. He elaborates on how modern UFO encounters may be understood as interactions with these controlling entities, which manipulate human consciousness to constrain ultimate spiritual freedom. Jason also discusses how genetic and behavioral memory may be carried transorganically, exemplified by anecdotal evidence of organ recipients inheriting donor traits. Finally, Jason addresses the current status of Ghislaine Maxwell, her arrest, trial, and incarceration. He reflects on her complex relationship with Epstein, his mysterious death, and the ongoing suppression of the full story behind their activities. Maxwell's potential pardon by Donald Trump is contemplated based on their historical relationship, her cooperation, and the sensitive intelligence matters she controls. Jason reveals the likelihood that Maxwell's knowledge, wealth, and power were deeply intertwined with those who ultimately orchestrated Epstein's killing and control over the scandal's fallout. Maxwell's later marriage to Scott Borgerson, a CIA-linked figure obsessed with Antarctic mysteries, is tied back into the overarching Atlantis and deep state themes. Her evolution into a key player chasing Antarctica as the true seat of Atlantean secrets aligns with Nazi occult explorations and ongoing global power conflicts. Jason alludes to the broader American constitutional crisis looming amid these shadow structures and the future challenges posed by competing powers technologically, politically, and metaphysically.